Every business has a story. We know, for example, that Facebook was founded by Mark Zuckerberg in his dorm room. We know the same thing about Michael Dell and Dell Computers. We know that Jay-Z founded his recording business, his artistry, by selling his recordings out of the back of his car, the trunk of his car. These stories are fascinating. They're external stories, stories that we know that are told outside of the business, that help us understand the history of an enterprise, the plans of an entrepreneur, the strategies that were involved in founding a company. And often these are like fables. They tend to teach us lessons about entrepreneurship and about the strategies we might employ in our own enterprises. But that's an external story, and businesses also have an internal story, and entrepreneurs certainly have an internal story. You see, there are stories that are going on inside the mind of the entrepreneur, inside the building, inside the consciousness of the people who run the business. And those stories often have just as much impact as the external story. In fact, they might have more impact than the external story because they tend to dominate the way a business owner thinks about going forward. Often when I'm working with an entrepreneur and coaching an entrepreneur, it's this internal story that's in the way. I'll hear this internal story during our conversations. It'll be things like, I would be more successful if XYZ had happened. Or I'm in this business, but I don't have these benefits like others do. Or I missed an opportunity to do this or that. Or we don't have the right team. Or we don't have the technology that others have. Now, these internal stories are stories that really can hold us back. But we might just think, look, I'm expressing the way I feel. I'm expressing just the circumstances, the facts of what's going on in our business. But you have to ask yourself, does that internal story really serve you? Does it help you advance the business? Is there a better story that would help you be more successful? And is there a better story that exists that you can use externally in your marketing that could be more effective? Can you align your internal and external story in a way that will make you operate congruently and make you operate more efficiently, more effectively, and more profitably? Well, I say yes, there's no question about it. I was working with some entrepreneurs in Southern California, and these entrepreneurs had come out of the sports business. One was in ticketing, another one was working with a sports team. I think another one was working with some kind of technology of some kind. And they were all over 50 years old. Now, this was a time where a lot of young entrepreneurs were getting a lot of attention in the news. And you might look at these entrepreneurs and think, wow, they're over the hill. Can they really go at it in this high-tech arena at this age? Well, the answer is yes, of course, because the story that they told themselves is that most successful entrepreneurs who begin businesses 50 and over have far more success quicker, and their experience enables them to bypass mistakes that other entrepreneurs might make. They're more credible to people in the financial sectors. They're more credible to vendors and partners. And they have more confidence about what they know in their industry. They have more command in their leadership style. This was the story that these entrepreneurs told themselves. And the result was that these entrepreneurs were able to overcome hurdle, obstacle, difficulties, and were able to grow the business. Not only that, they were able to tell that story in a way that made some of the younger people that worked with them frankly, in awe of their capability and in awe of their experience. And so there was a level of respect that this business commanded that they might not have if they had said to themselves, my goodness, for most of my career I wasn't as successful as I'd like to be. Here I am in my 50s and I'm still trying to make this business work. You see, you can choose the story you want to tell, and you can decide what you want to emphasize, and you can decide how you're going to use that emphasis. Are you going to use it in your marketing? Are you going to use it internally? I say you should do both, because every business that has a story and that uses it effectively attracts people, because people like to hear stories. They like to know how a business started. They like to know how a business operates. It's why we look at stories all the time, documentaries, because we want to know what's the thinking behind that. What really went on? What were the conversations that took place? I think your story is powerful, and I think your story should never be underestimated. And I think you should, right now, look at the stories in your career, look at the stories in your business, and decide, what story am I going to emphasize? What stories am I not telling? What kind of relationships and experiences have I had that I am undervaluing, that I don't think are necessary to talk about? Who am I connected to? What industries? What inventions? What developments? What companies? What individuals? What famous people? What activities can I use to more effectively tell my story? Every entrepreneur has something that they can use to effectively tell their story. Whether it's starting your business in your kitchen, whether it's baking pies to build a business, whether it's selling door to door, whatever it is, there are stories that can propel your business forward. And frankly, when you are talking with prospects, when you're talking with the media, when you're looking at how to sell your products and services in a creative way, you're going to need these stories, because no one wants to deal with a ho-hum, mundane, ordinary business. We want to deal with businesses that have stories that we can relate to, stories that are heartwarming, stories that are interesting, stories that are inspiring. So think about the story that you can market associated with your business. Don't undervalue it. Don't minimize it. Work on it. And once you work on it, incorporate it in your marketing. Incorporate it in your messaging. Share it with the folks externally and internally. And make sure that you are not operating day to day with a story that undermines your success. Many stories that people are telling in their minds, internally, are counterproductive to the goals that they have for their business. Make sure that your story aligns with your aspirations. If you like this tip, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it. Share it with someone in your network. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Tell this story with others so that they can learn about it and they can incorporate it into their own success. I look forward to sharing more stories with you. I'll see you next time.